Hello, my fellow sensitive people. How you doing? I decided that I would shoot a remote viewing based on some meditations I've done the last couple days. I'm just checking my notes, but it's interesting. I decided that I was going to shoot behind the new, I don't know if you all see, this is the new setup for the herbs. People who've been watching the channel for a while know that I'm a naturopathic doctor, and a lot of the patients get put on herbal protocols, so it's kind of nice to be able to shoot with all of the herbs. I'll show them to you. You can see this is how I make my medicines, and it's just something I've wanted since I was a child. I've always wanted to be close to the medicine, to be close to the plants. I once read about a particular magician who slept on the stage with his magic tricks because he wanted to be close to the magic. And I feel that way, oops, it's a little loud. I feel that way about the medicine, about being a naturopathic doctor. It's not just about the fact that you get to be a doctor, which is really cool. It's about connecting with the energy of this type of medicine and its long history, traditions, and that's just really cool to me. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about last night's meditations, which are kind of interesting. I know Mila's playing over there. I know people had asked me if I could do a meditation on Marie's table. She had had a meditation where she saw Nancy Pelosi having a conversation with people, and a decision had been made to act now and not wait until the election. I don't really know how to interpret Maria's dream, but I can tell you, just as somebody who meditates, it's interesting. I've been reading books about trauma and how trauma affects brain development, and how people who've had severe trauma can become trapped in the parts of their brain that we call the emotional brain, the primitive brain, to such a degree that you can completely close yourself off from the prefrontal cortex. And this is why people who have severe trauma, particularly trauma in childhood, become emotionally underdeveloped, impaired, retreat back to childish ways of handling stress, because the prefrontal cortex gets completely cut off when you're in a state of trauma or flashback, etc. So what does this have to do with remote viewing? I think the reason why heart-centered remote viewing works just for those people who are psychologists, psychiatrists, physicians, etc. that watch this channel is because it gives the primitive brain, the reptilian brain, something to focus on and keep it occupied, but it also keeps it from entering into a state of trauma, in the sense that you're in a state of divine love and peace. You're in an incredibly safe environment, and so consequently you're able to really open up that part of your brain that's the prefrontal cortex, right? That's the executor of the brain. That's the part of the brain that's able to rationalize and look at something not from an emotional perspective, but from an objective perspective, and then put the pieces together. But what's the added bonus when you're a heart-centered remote viewer is that these three parts of your brain, we have three parts to our brain. We have the reptile brain, which is the reptilian complex, right? We've got the limbic system, also called the rabbit brain. Mammals have a developed limbic system. And then we have the prefrontal cortex, or the primate brain, right? The executor. But what's interesting about meditation, the heart-centered remote viewing technique that I use, is that all parts of the brain are active at the same time. It'd be interesting to see what a speck looks like, doing some imaging. All parts are occupied, are very active at the same time when you're in a remote viewing state, and you can feed back information to somebody about what you're observing, what the prefrontal, what the observer is seeing, while simultaneously your emotions are processing all of the stuff you're picking up. And I think that that's the power of remote viewing, and I think that heart-centered remote viewing, and I think that that's why it works, and I think that that is why psychiatrists who do profiling will often either learn this technique or they will reach out to somebody who does it. I know that Jordan Peterson, who I believe is a psychologist, uses a technique like this in order to develop empathy and to put himself in the shoes of the other. So a lot of psychologists, therapists, etc. do techniques like this. So that's the long introduction about what this is. I'm a very curious person. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm fascinated with cross-cultural studies about healing, how people address healing, medical anthropology, how we use plants, how we use altered states, what is reality, how we heal, and particularly how we heal from trauma that's in an quote-unquote emotional. So now you're up to snuff about this channel, which is a very strange channel, but I'm glad you're here. Let's do a remote. So the first target was to try and put myself in the shoes of Nancy Pelosi, because Marie's Table had that dream, and could I just look into things from the perspective of Nancy Pelosi? So the first thing I felt when I put myself in the shoes of Nancy Pelosi was that I have to just focus on what my job is, and my job is the business of Congress. That is really what I feel that I am attempting to do, which is that I oversee the budget. I make sure that the money is going to where it's supposed to go. And so that is my main job, and that is my main focus as Nancy Pelosi. But at the same time, there are these other things going on, investigations going on. As I had said in previous remotes, Michael Cohen was going to turn. Remember, we talked about that. He did. We talked about the fact that they had intercepted a phone call. Somebody had possibly from the family asked him to destroy documents. We thought that that was Eric Trump. It looks like it is, because the DA wants to talk to Eric Trump. But the other thing that we saw in that remote is that the documents and information they wanted to destroy had signatures. And specifically, it had signatures of the Trump children, Ivanka Trump and possibly Eric Trump. So the feds went in. I think that what we're going to start seeing in terms of all of the investigations that went on, including the feds going in with the Michael Cohen case, I think that this is going to heat up a lot more what happened with the missing $40 million from the inauguration. I think that a lot of stuff's going to get outed. And I specifically think it's going to be in the month of September. The next 3 weeks, I've talked about it, with Donald Trump are going to be these are bad weeks coming. These are not good weeks for Donald Trump. And I think but I think that that's the main focus of Nancy Pelosi. It's not outing people. It's not, that is somebody else's job. Her job is to simply maneuver things. In terms of her conversations with the military, though, I would not be surprised if some type of conversation is happening. And I know that the FBI is also communicating with Biden, so there's a little bit of a connection there as well. The other remote that I kind of put off because it's not politics was meditations I had done on Meghan Markel and Prince Harry. Some people are royal watchers. I have a soft spot for Prince Harry because Prince Harry is involved in activism to help people who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, often in childhood. So kudos to him. But as we had mentioned in previous remote viewings, Meghan Markle, he was warned that Meghan Markle was moving back to the United States. So if you, but she couldn't leave because of the kids, so they got permission to let her go, and et cetera, et cetera. So then they both moved to Los Angeles. I should do the I Got It Right song. But anyway, then we went further into it, and it said that we picked up that Harry wanted to get involved in education, film and TV, and that he would be an activist and he would be able to find his own voice that way. And I got it right again. They just signed a contract with Netflix. So that is precisely what Meghan and Prince Harry are going to be doing. And so I really loved the energy of Meghan Markle when I went in, because what she is saying in the remote is that her husband has a unique voice and a unique perspective that needs to be heard, and that it's a gift to the world. And so helping him maneuver the media in a way so that his unique voice can be given to the world. That's the gift that Meghan Markle has given her husband, is you need to be a part of this. You need to use your gifts in this way, and so that the world can know how wonderful her husband is. That's her perspective. And I think they might have another child. So that was that remote. It's interesting also going into Prince Harry's energy. He doesn't believe in royalty anymore, he said. And he believes that it probably should be a relic. He had a very nice conversation with his family. It was tongue-in-cheek. He said that he will try not to embarrass the family. They were joking about him doing media work, but that's how they joke in private, evidently. It's like, yes, don't embarrass the family. I promise not to embarrass the family, but there will be, he says, but he said, here's what he said. He said, I promise not to embarrass the family, but from what I've seen, they're doing a good job all on their own. And he said, in terms of the rift with his brother, he said that he should basically grow some cojones and stand up for the principles and values that we were raised with. I don't know what that was about. I don't want to be involved. It's just a remote viewer. And then Prince Charles, worst day of his life. He actually did come through. I was meditating on this, and I actually got into Prince Charles's energy, which I had never done before. And I wanted to see if there was any truth to the conspiracy that he killed his wife or anything like that. And I didn't get a feeling like that at all when I went into the energy. Instead, he said that he was the one, I guess, that had to identify the body, but he said it was the worst day of his life, that she had died too young, and that it was all so unfair to her. He realized that the marriage had been far too big a burden for somebody so young. And that it was wrong to do this to a girl. She needed more help. So in hindsight, older and wiser, Prince Charles came to see Diana as having been just a child, just a girl, and what they did to her was wrong. She was simply too young to be married and to be in that, propped up and put into that position. And he said that the worst part was having to talk to his children, and the pain of knowing he would have to talk to his children about this. So that is what I got on the royals. So now you're up to snuff. So expect to see more on the subject of child development, healthy childhood development, trauma, mental health, etc., coming from the prince, and evidently they're doing stuff on Netflix. Okay, and then the last thing remote is just to finish up with Trump. Expect him to be crashing in the polls for the next couple of weeks. I know, it's a hard knock life. Something major is happening September 19th, which is a Saturday, so there's either going to be a protest or a march or an expose or something's going to happen. And I think it's becoming increasingly obvious to Donald Trump that he's already lost the election. So, I don't know. And then the boats sank. They did a flotilla. They did a boat thing for Donald Trump in Texas, and the boats sank. So I think what may have happened, I did a meditation on that, is I think some gremlins went in and drilled a couple holes in a couple Trump boats, and that's not very nice. So, so many of the boats sank. All right, my fellow sensitive people, thanks for watching. If you're still trying to get in for a tarot reading, you can go to tarotwithwhimsy.com. If you'd actually like to see me as a doctor, I do take telemedicine appointments, and you can go to office, or you can go to drwhimsy.com, or you can reach out to me at office@drwhimsy.com. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.